Good evening, everybody. This is Scott DeCamp with CatchMark SportsNet. We're here in the Whitehall podcast studio for our weekly CatchMark SportsNet podcast, brought to you by Chris Wink, Realtor for Century 21 Trophy Class. It's Sunday, April 28th, 2024. Joined by co-host Myles Welch. How you doing, Myles?
Happy to be here. Thanks, Ron, Mike, for coming on.
Yep, and we also have podcast regular Mike Taylor. Thanks for coming in on this rare Sunday podcast.
Not happy about it.
No, you're not?
No, but I'm here.
We'll have to...
It'll change when Ron starts talking.
That's right. It'll get you in a better mood.
No, absolutely.
Who's Ron? I thought we were sitting with Bono.
You like my new glasses?
I do.
I just picked them up on the way in. I heard I was going to be on this Sunday, so I thought I'd spice it up a little bit for the
That's
show.
right. Ron Bono Smolen.
There you go.
So, yeah.
With or without you.
Yep. I hope it's with you because we're counting on you. We got a seat for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but Ron, obviously proud Whitehall alumnus, now a Whitehall parent as well as a pharmacist, right?
That's true.
And as well as a baseball umpire. So how are things going?
I'm doing well this Sunday evening, so thank you for having me. Thank you for this beautiful mecca of sports entertainment here in Whitehall.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's basically what we are. I mean,
Entertainment Central.
entertainment something.
Yeah.
So how are you guys' weekends going before they were interrupted by this podcast?
Well, I'm still in shock over Troy.
Yeah, so
know.
he's referring to Troy Moran. He was so well known and liked and respected. His latest job was a principal at Hart High School. He had been at Montague, Oak Ridge, Mona Shores. He's a Whitehall alumnus. I think he graduated with Miles' dad.
In 96, I believe.
Yeah,
Well, he had a couple little kids.
he does.
Yeah,
He's got a couple
that's-
daughters, couple young daughters.
That's horrible.
Yeah, very, very sad. I'm not sure that this was it, but we were out and about last night, me and my wife and youngest daughter, and we were coming up Colby Street, and we saw, or actually over the bridge actually, and saw a bunch of emergency vehicles over on the other side, over by kind of just up from Water Dog. Didn't know what it was. Still don't know if that's what that was, but I understand he was out for a jog, and reports are indicating that it was a heart issue, that he had some kind of heart issue. And if you knew Troy, I think he was 46 or something like that, and he kept himself in extremely good shape. So I don't know.
Wonder if it was genetics.
Well, that's what it usually is. Actually, 50% of people who pass away from a heart attack have normal cholesterol. It's usually family history, so that's what happens to a lot of folks,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So and we'll kind of get back into talking about Troy for a few more minutes. But as we always do on this case, we want to thank our sponsors, starting with Big Stone Therapies, Rescue 2.0 LLC, Grieve Law, Edward Jones with financial advisor Brett Atkins, Coldwell Banker, Woodland Schmidt with David Duesenberry, Farm Bureau Insurance, the Kenny Agency, 5-Star Real Estate Leaders with Matt Parker, The Birdhouse, Scheid Plumbing, Heating and Cooling, Green Ridge Realty with Chris Dykman and Sarah Rio, and then, of course, our title sponsors. We mentioned Chris Wink, Realtor for Century 21 Trophy Class. He was our guest last week and did a tremendous job, and he just supports us in the area so much. So give that man a shout if you have any real estate needs, because he'll do you right. So
Absolutely. Well,
so he's considering doing a podcast. We talked about this last week, maybe a real estate podcast or something.
really.
So we'll see if that develops or not.
Good.
But we're gonna maybe work with him on that. We'll see where that goes. But
Another good project.
and he's also supporting our CatchMark SportsNet Player of the Year banquet, where we're coming out with a new feature to it that he's helping to support as well, along with the Durga Insurance Group. So if you can hear that humming in the background, that is our
Myles' stomach.
Yeah, pretty
He was
much.
hungry. He's a
missed
growing
dinner.
boy. We have our cleaning woman here tonight. She cleans the office on Sundays.
Brent Rath is her name.
Yes. Brent's mother is here cleaning. She does a great job, so she was just finishing up. So, but anyway, on behalf of CatchMark Technologies, we want to offer our condolences to family, friends, and the countless number of people that Troy Moran, whose lives that he touched and impacted in a positive way. I mean, we're all stunned and saddened by it. I just couldn't believe it when I saw that. I was just in his office 3 weeks ago talking about the shark he caught on a spring break trip down in Destin. So,
With his brother?
yep. I know Brent was good friends with him. Brent Rath was, and grew up with him and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, wasn't he Montague principal for a while too?
he was.
Yeah.
He's a Montague principal, and then most recently at Hart since 2021.
Where do you go to high school?
Went to
Whitehall,
Yeah.
96.
96, I believe he graduated.
I knew he was real local, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think it's his brother Todd, maybe.
Yeah, I think
Both.
so.
Why did he leave Montague?
I'm not sure what happened there, but I don't think anything happened per se. But I think I don't know. But I can say that since he got to Hart, good things started happening, and I'm not saying it was just him, but I think he had a big part in that. So, but it just kind of shows you just never know.
No, I've, I've been around a while, so unfortunately I've seen a lot of it, too much. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, again, we haven't heard anything on services or anything like that, but huge impact in the area and beyond. So he'll be severely missed. So switching gears to our guest here, Ron Smolen. Can you give us a little bit of background? Hometown, which I think this is it, right? High school graduation year, etc.
Well, I grew up actually in Belleville, Michigan. You may have heard of it. They do a little football down there, Mike. You may have heard of them.
Absolutely.
But I moved up here in '78 with my parents. I had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. My brother John played football here. You may have heard of him. He was kind of a Whitehall legend in the Hall of Fame. But we grew up here, and I moved up here in '78 when I was 12, and then graduated here at Whitehall '84. A couple of years ago. Myles, you may have heard 1984.
Yep, Tigers won the World Series.
That's true.
Yeah.
You're
Little
right.
thing invented then called the twist.
There you
The
go.
twist.
Yeah. Who was the main reliever in '84 for the Tigers?
Miles got his gum in still.
Oh, whoops.
Who was the main
trying
reliever
to
for the
plan.
Tigers?
In '84,
Yeah.
You know this.
main
Trivia
reliever.
buff.
In '84,
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's a couple of them, but
Yeah.
the closer.
Who was the setup guy and then the main closer? They were
I'm
from
drawing a
down
blank.
south.
I'm drawing a blank.
Willie Hernandez.
Willie Hernandez.
There you go.
He won the Cy Young.
Guillermo,
Yeah.
Willie Hernandez.
He won the Cy Young in '84 though.
Yeah.
So.
And then the,
Who was
the
the
setup
setup?
guy was pretty dynamite too.
Who's that? Ron?
Aurelio Lopez.
Smoke.
Senior
Yeah.
Smoke.
Yeah. He had a
My
screwball.
dad will know him better. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he had a screwball actually. That was one thing he was known for, a screwball.
Gotcha.
So, anyways, not to get off on a tangent or two. That's kind of my.
Those
my-
are the glory days.
There
Kirk
you
Gibson,
go.
Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker,
That was
Larry
some great-
Herndon, Jeff
Parrish.
Lemon, Hip Lance Parrish behind the dish,
yeah, some great stuff right there.
Tommy Brookins.
190. I think he batted 190, Tommy, but he was good.
That's right.
But anyway, so I graduated in 1984.
Kurt Gibson.
Yeah.
Gibby.
And back then we had a really good football team and a really good baseball team back then. That was before the Whitehall football teams of this year's, the last couple of years. That was probably arguably one of the best Whitehall football teams.
Who was the coach then?
That was John Heisinger, senior. So Kurt's dad, he was our football and our baseball coach back then. And if you know John, he actually played Double-A for the Tigers. He was a Western graduate, All-American catcher for.
Fred Decker?
I don't know if I know Fred, but
Fred was there a long time.
That's
Right?
who I played for.
yeah,
Yeah.
he probably was played. He's actually in the Hall of Fame here from Muskegon also, John Heisinger. So he was our coach. We did really well. We won the Seaway back then, 11-1. Our only loss was the Scoop Hanson's Ludington Orioles. He reminds me every time he's here calling a game in our gym. He reminds me of that game. But so we actually had a really good football team. Our only loss was a 3-0 overtime loss to Spring Lake. And back then, there wasn't the playoffs that we have now. So you basically had to make it to regionals to get in the playoffs. So we were in the Seaway back then, so we missed out by like 0.03 playoff points. We beat the number 1 ranked Lansing Catholic Central down in Lansing Catholic Central's 18-12. But anyway, so I could go on and on about high school glory days. Bruce Springsteen has a song about that. You may have heard of it.
Yeah. What'd you take away from all that as far as developing you personally as a person?
As a person,
Yeah.
adversity. That that the sun will always come up, even at that big loss. I remember that loss. I remember watching that field go over, and it was on the front page, and there's me watching. I have that clip out, and I was like watching it because I was on the field when it happened, and just being so disappointed because we had such a really good team, and we had 2 touchdowns called back at their field at Spring Lake, and just that the sun will come up, even though we didn't make it, and it was tough. It was tough, but the sun comes up just like in life. Things happen, and I've had them happen in my life personally, and things have gotten better.
Were you a 3-sport athlete, Ron?
I was until my sophomore year. So football, baseball, and then actually I was in musicals. I was in choir. I played music in a band, and so kinda, sorta.
Take it away, Myles.
Oh yeah, I mean, what else would you change if you could go back there? What would you change about your high school days?
Actually, nothing.
A couple of final scores, Myles.
Yeah, well, thank you,
final
Mike,
scores?
on that one. Yeah, I'd change the finals. I'd like to have that game in Whitehall, maybe with some Whitehall referees. That would be nice.
Oh yeah.
I think there were some Spring Lake High School referees. I think if you were to ask my teammates, we had Jeff Lorenz was on our team. If you remember, Jeff Lorenz, 3-sport. He was for baseball. He actually was the Michigan, Mr. Michigan. He played down at Tiger Stadium. Very good football player and baseball player. But that'd probably be one thing, Mike. You're right. But no, I have absolutely nothing. I love high school. I was in hard rock band.
Yeah.
And
Well, of course.
Yeah, well, hold on. Now, when we say a hard rock band, how often did you guys practice?
we practiced at least once a week.
Did you?
What'd you play?
I played bass guitar at the time, and there's actually YouTube videos of us playing at the Whitehall talent show. We played Jump by Van Halen, Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Rock of Ages.
What happened to you guys?
What happened?
Yeah, what happened to you?
Well,
We got to get the band back together.
we actually did a reunion about 10 years ago.
Did you?
Yeah, and I still play
still
today,
playing,
actually. I
yeah.
still play today called Medicine Man. And a different guy is actually his brother. We play out still right now.
Well, get the band back together. I'm in charge of the Apple Barbecue Festival up in Silver Lake in second week in September. Ron, we're looking for bands to book.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be with you, Mike. I've got some talent for you. We'll get you lined
Hey,
up.
the Mason County Central softball coach. Do you know him or not?
Who is it?
Why am I drawing a blank? It's John. I'll get his name for you. He's in a band up there as well, so I can get you his info. John Blake, that's right. John Blake, who's been here a couple times actually for media days last year and this year, but he's the girls varsity softball coach at Mason County Central, and he's still playing in a band.
Yeah, our festival goes the Friday afternoon from about 1 to 9, and then Saturday from 9 to 9. But we usually run about 20 to 25,000 people through there.
Really?
We have 2 live bands, 2 or 3.
I've got all kinds of bands for you. So we'll hook up, Mike. There is a 15% booking fee that I charge. Is that okay with you?
Sure, because I keep 90% of it myself.
105%. I like it. I like your mathematics.
Well, it just tells you how much I can give you.
But anyway, so yeah, so I wouldn't. I really had a great time in high school, to be honest with you.
Sounds like you did. I mean,
I really did.
You were, I think that's interesting that, you talk about 3-sport athletes. You were 2-sport in a band.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And I was the lead for the musical my senior year at Snoopy. I was Snoopy, believe it or not. And then we did You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown as a junior. And I was Snoopy again for that as a junior. So I was in choir and then playing football, baseball. And then
You did enjoy high school.
I did. It was a great time. I had a really good
Where'd you go after there?
So I played baseball at Muskegon Community College for John Suda, and then we talked about it a little bit. Scott and I talked about it because Scott played there also. Moose was there, kind of helping out a little bit. He took over after that. So I was at community college a couple of years, and then I went to pharmacy school up at Ferris after that. Became a pharmacist, and
Now, was Troy Gowell up there?
Yeah.
At the time?
Well, no, Troy actually,
Was after you?
he was after me. He was a few years
I
after
graduated
me.
the same year as Troy.
Okay.
So I worked
91.
I worked with him a little bit up at Shelby Pharmacy a little bit. So Troy, my brother is actually a pharmacist too. He actually worked with Troy up there. So Troy was up there at Hometown Pharmacy.
All right.
Yeah,
I was good friends with Troy and his
Yeah.
family.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your family too. I mean, we cover. I know your daughters run track, and so you got Jenna, and I mean, then you have a son who plays baseball at Spring Arbor, correct?
At Siena Heights.
Siena Heights.
University, yeah. So I've got 3 children.
And you
I-
make a lot of trips, right, over there to Siena Heights.
Yeah,
right?
we do actually. So me and my wife do, and he's a junior this year's right-handed pitcher. I was watching this weekend. I was watching a game on, and they were playing Lawrence Tech, and they split. So they're going to be in the tournament this year. So he's 21. He's had a decent year this year. You know, just like every pitcher. You know, probably like his ERA and his WHIP to be a little bit lower, but he was 2-0 this year, so I think he had a decent year. And and what's interesting here is I've been able to call games for them, so I'm going to be calling that playoff game. About half the games I was able to call this year, so I'm going to be calling those games, which has been a lot of fun. And then my daughter Jenna, she's graduating this year, and she'll be running track and going to Elmhurst. So it's interesting, you know. And then I have a daughter, Emmy, who also runs track, who's a junior, who's friends with Scott's daughter. And interesting story is, for us who play baseball, track is a wholly different deal. Have you ever gone to a track meet, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
What did you think of it?
Oh, yeah.
Honestly.
I'll tell you what, if you don't know somebody specifically to watch, you know, it's not much fun. You know, it's like going to the dentist, you know. But, you know, you watch the kids, you know. Actually, the last time I went was to watch one of the officials.
Did you?
Yeah, he goes, "Hey, I'm officiating a track meet. Come on over." And I went, "All right." So, and it was Troy's uncle.
Right.
Yeah, Lloyd Gowell. Yep. I don't know. I guess
Was he the starter or no?
What's that?
Was he the starter?
Yes. Yes.
So he wasn't pointing the gun at you, though, right?
Your mark, get set. Then he went like this. Yeah.
All right.
He looked in the crowd for me. Yeah.
It's like going to the Kentucky Derby,
Yeah.
you know. And if you have, you know, my daughters are sprinters.
All that build up.
You know, so you build up and you wait, and everyone's stretching, everyone's watching, everyone's like not moving very fast. And then all of a sudden, boom, you got, 28 seconds, you got 11 seconds.
Yep.
Then you wait. And I remember my first track meet, and it was over at the Cullen Field over in Montague or whatever. And it was cold, the Michigan, cold, windy, cloudy. And all of a sudden I'm looking over and I see there's a baseball game over there. So I go to my wife. I said, "Honey, I'm going to go watch the ball game. Let me know when we're going to get close to when the girls are running." So I went and watched the ball game for most of the time. And I came over and watched the track. And then, I've gotten used to watching it. And then, my daughter, or my wife ran track at Montague. So it's great for her. And I've really gotten to enjoy it and embrace the whole aspect of running a 400 meter. Because my daughter, especially Jenna, reminds me, says, "Dad, you couldn't run a 400 meter." And I said, "You're probably right." And actually on Facebook, I don't know if you saw it, Scott, but so we had a little thing where when my daughter was in 7th grade, because I could run pretty fast when I was, a younger fella, and I could still probably run okay. So we had in 7th grade, what happens is we had a challenge, that I could still beat her, So of course we went down to the track, and 100 meters looks awfully long. In your mind, 100 meters doesn't seem that long, but
It's
when you
now
get
a distance event.
yeah, and when you get older, 100 meters is pretty long, and so I tried to negotiate to 60 meters, to 70 meters, and my daughter's like, no. She had to squash this, crazy talk when she could. So of course we have it all on tape, and I replay the video every year to keep myself humble. So she beat me, of course. I kind of kept up about 60 meters or so, but after that, it's a funny thing.
Jeez.
So Myles,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Myles, you play baseball. Tell me about spring sports in Michigan
I mean,
with the
I don't-
weather and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because like one day it'll be raining and 30 degrees, and then other days like this last Saturday it was up to near 70 in Traverse City. So it's definitely off and on for sure.
Tell us about your day yesterday. What time it started, what time it ended.
It was crazy.
Everything in between.
I mean, I woke up I set my alarm for 5:00. Got up, took a shower, and then left to Traverse City, about 2.5 hour drive. Got there. First game was at 9:30.
Did you guys ride the bus?
No, we had to drive separately. Yeah. So
And you played who? Traverse City West first?
Traverse City West first. Lost that game. We were up most of it. We lost it at the end, and then we played Spring Lake back to back against a really good Spring Lake team, and we won. So that was big. And then we had to hurry back because we had prom. So 2.5 hour drive back, and then we had to get ready for prom. So it was a long day for sure.
And the prom was in Spring Lake, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And that was for Whitehall?
Yeah.
That was for school?
Yep.
You guys don't travel on a bus?
We do not on Saturdays. We don't, but like
Really?
during the week when we have like double headers, yeah, we do. But
I would think liability would
yeah,
be an issue, in a school district
yeah,
traveling that far.
Is
Wow.
it parents usually driving or just,
yeah. Parents.
parents are generally driving?
A few of us, not me, but a few of the team,
Yeah.
stayed overnight up near there. So,
Then go to prom, huh?
oh, I went. We had to hurry back.
Well,
but,
tell us about your prom date.
oh, I didn't have one. I went with the boys.
That says it all.
I went with there was 6 of us baseball guys that got back at the end that we had to hurry up
Hey.
and scramble.
Well, you saved
Nothing
money
wrong
on
with that.
dinner then.
Yeah, did you get to go to dinner?
Yeah, we did. We got to the prom like an hour late.
Where'd you go?
We someplace in Spring like Montabogo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot,
I think I know what you're talking about.
yeah. So
I thought you were going to say McDonald's or something.
would have saved a lot of time for sure.
And some money. It
McDonald's. Yeah.
might cost you the same though.
Yeah, it was probably though. Actually, it was up there.
It's getting a little bit expensive.
Yeah. Well, and back when did you ever have to drive to games when you were in high school?
No, there was no driving to games. No, we were all on the bus.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting, the events. I know, like when my son was in high school and stuff, that, on the Saturday games are a little bit different sometimes, trying to get a bus. I know when he was playing tennis some that he had that, we had to kind of get him there.
Seems like there's more weekend events now, too. More Saturday
Tougher.
things. We never had as many Saturday. The only Saturday stuff we really had was the county tournament and then the, districts and regionals, for high school baseball. But there's more stuff now, more Saturday
Yeah, I
games.
think we play like every Saturday. We have a doubleheader or something like that. So
So Ron, did you get into umpiring?
Great question. So umpiring, so when I was like 19, I remember it was like that summer, and most everyone is looking for a job. And I remember one summer it was picking asparagus, and up in Shelby. And I thought, do I want to pick asparagus? And then I saw like some ad in the White Lake Observer back then, Mike. That's what we had. We had 2 newspapers at one time, the Observer and the Beacon. And they said umpiring. We're looking for umpires for Pony League. It wasn't juniors back then. We called it Pony League. $25 to $35 a game. This is back in 1985, I believe. And I was like, wow, I love baseball. I believe I know the game. So way back then, I decided to give it a shot. And I started doing games at the old Montague, the same field that we have now. And it was great. You could do a couple games a week and you could make $50, $70 a week just doing a couple games. And it was just one game at the time. And back then, if you think it was really good money back then, back in 1985, 86. And that's when I started really liking it.
And so talk to us about the progression in umpiring, moving up from, maybe youth league where you started. How did you climb the ladder?
So some really other good questions. So, it was on and off from that time period where I was doing Pony League until I got involved with youth sports here in the White Lake area, with my son playing baseball. And then we have a really strong foundation of really good people that care about youth sports with, and I could probably say this for soccer also, but like for baseball and softball. And I can just mention some names like Chris Ritchie, Mike Moore, Randy Michelson, Jeff Moss, all these folks that were a part of our youth sports. And so I got involved with White Lake Little League here as my son got older and got into Little League, and I became part of the board and really got involved with that. And as time came on, we needed umpires, and so I became part of that and working with those folks. And then as time went on with working with those folks and doing Little League umpiring, what happens is when you do All-Stars, what happens is like when Reese Puffer plays White Lake, they'll send Reese Puffer will send an umpire, and then we'll have White Lake as an umpire. So you'll have if it's at White Lake, the plate umpire will be from White Lake, and then the Reese Puffer umpire will be the field umpire. So then one of my old teammates from Muskegon Community College, Tim Shupe, was sent from Reese Puffer. All of a sudden he was there. I'm like, hey, how you doing, Shupe? He's like, how's it going? So he was like my partner, and he's like, well, by the way, why don't you become a high school umpire? We're always looking for high school umpires. I'm like, oh no, no one wants to do that. He's like, sure, we got a shortage of high school umpires. And so just talking with him, Tim and I were always pretty close and had a really good relationship. And this is where when you play college sports like you have, and people have played college sports, and just same thing with high school too. You have those relationships for years. People I still have relationships with. And so he's like, hey, you'll be my partner, and then we'll just do some high school games. And it's a funny story, So that first year, it just anytime you go up another level, it's a whole nother bit of learning as you go. And I was telling Scott this story here a couple of weeks ago. He's like, Shoop was like, hey, we'll just do a bunch of JV games, and it's going to be really relaxed. It's not going to be that big of a deal. And then all of a sudden, that first season, I find myself like on the CatchMark games. It's a live broadcast, and I'm like doing these conference championship games, these games that are going to make a difference in the championship, like Montague, North Muskegon, or Reed City, Fremont, and all of a sudden I'm being scheduled on these championship games where it's much more involved than just the laid back JV games.
We live streamed the North Muskegon at Montague games a couple years ago, and it was basically for the conference title. So that's what he found himself in the middle of. It was a live stream.
Yeah. So it was a little more. It was a little more than as time went on, a little bit more than. So that's how the progression came. From doing I did do some travel ball games and stuff in Muskegon, and that's how it kind of progression came.
We know who else is an umpire, right? There's another umpire on the set here.
Oh yeah.
You're looking at him.
Oh yeah, Dr. Myles.
Oh yeah.
How did being an athlete, a baseball player, okay, and a very good baseball player, how did that help you with your umpiring? When you talk about all the aspects of umpires, just people think it's like, okay, I got to call him safe or out, balls and strikes. It's the managing of the game itself, okay, where you're communicating with the both teams' coaches, okay, you're communicating with the players. Hey, let's do this. Let's make sure. How did you find yourself going from, boom, into those kind of championships environments, Ron, and controlling the atmosphere?
Well, it really does help. So knowing the game is important, and being part of the game and then playing at a different level does help. And having, but still, even playing the game multiple years, you still have to take time to actually know the rules and do extra, study.
Right.
And know the mechanics. But back to your original question, I believe this knowing the game and seeing the game develop and watching the play develop, you've been in those experiences and have seen it develop, as time goes on. It takes more than just watching it on TV, I'll just give you a case in point, Shoop says, hey, let's be softball umpires, and I considered it, and I did like a ton of like study on it, and I got registered to do softball, and I watched a little bit of softball, but I just didn't feel that comfortable about being a softball umpire because I haven't played it, I haven't been part of it, and so I just think being a player, does really help you it sets you up to be a potentially a good umpire. It doesn't guarantee you to be a good umpire,
Right.
but it does set you up.
I'm gonna agree with Ron with that. I mean, I played baseball obviously since I was like 8, and that helped me know the rules and know where to stand in the field, and just made me a better umpire in general as well. So,
But again, when you talk about like the rules of a balk, okay, I wouldn't know that. I'm like, okay, I understand what it is, but the technical term of it, I don't know. I don't know. And so, and again, I was a JV coach, and I could say, okay, this is what you can do as a pitcher. This is what you can't do. Okay, you can't commit to the plate and then throw it over. So yeah. But those are the things that you've got to become a student, like you said, Ron, and actually, okay, there's going to be scenarios out there, and some of the ground rules of the parks change, So in the ground rules before the game, ball gets stuck in the fence out there, outfielders hold your hand up, all the intangibles right there, you try and cover so you don't have to hit it, okay, and say, yeah, we didn't talk about that in pregame.
So all those things, yeah, I mean, all those things are talked about, and that's why you go to different camps. I mean, there's a ton of stuff on YouTube now that you do, and if you happen to make a mistake, guess what? You'll remember it, and then it'll never happen again.
Oh, think about that. Think about the umpire that blew the no-hitter call for the Tiger.
Perfect game, yeah.
Jim Joyce.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Now they want to kind of bring that back now that the so and so's got his Heisman back.
Reggie Bush.
Yeah, have you seen all that? But yeah, I mean, so even some of the best umpires, and I've worked with some really good ones here, and we're lucky here. We have some really good high school umpires, and
Do we have enough of them?
and actually, I think that's getting better because we got a raise this year. And I was thinking as I was getting ready to prepare for this podcast, because I thought of some questions that people were going to ask me. I think we are starting to get some. I mean, we can always use more, because what happens is I'm probably one of the youngest guys that we have.
How do you recruit people to become, or kids to become umpires, to get involved in the game?
They have MHSA has actually like a officials legacy program where you can sign up and do like sub varsity games.
But see, I watch, and I'll use basketball as an example. I'll go to a basketball game and I'll see the referees and I'll talk to them before the game, the JV game. How you doing? Yeah, good. What's the status on the officials? Oh, we don't have a lot. We don't. Then they'll turn around and those two same officials will be officiating the varsity game right afterwards. And I'm like, I know they've got to be getting tired. So therefore, when they're getting tired and they can't go up and down the court as quickly as they did in the JV game, that's going to equate to maybe a few missed calls, not being in the proper position to make the right call, and so I asked that about the status of umpires, the numbers, because in basketball, they're not getting the numbers out for younger referees.
Well, I think a couple of different things is going on as I've talked to Myles. Like we did, what I try to do is I try to give back personally. I think this helps. One, me and like Randy Michelson, I mentioned Randy Michelson, he was the head umpire for White Lake Little League for years, and then we helped do a clinic here for White Lake Little League every year because we have youth umpires that run it mostly, and so we give our time because people do it because it pays well. I mean, that's the reason I originally did it, and it's a lot of fun most of the time, and so we give back, and then the good ones actually, we'll do a lot of tournament stuff. You'll see a lot of like travel ball. A lot of the younger guys will start to kind of get into it. Like Myles is on fire about umpiring. And so I've set him up with a guy named Bruce Stone, is kind of known for his umpire clinic. I did a camp here this fall in Grand Rapids at Davenport. They have a 2-man and 3-man camp. It's primarily set up for guys who wanted to make the jump to college. But I have Myles set up because I think, Myles, you want to do something, maybe go to college. And the younger guys, when they go to college, even like D2, D1, even the minors and stuff. So getting those guys set up early, to kind of get them fired up, and then realize it's a work in progress, with regards to making mistakes, learning mechanics, because there are so many mechanics to becoming an umpire, on where to go, where the calls are, and the constant communication between you and your partner, and that's why I try to tell people is if you're an umpire, like when I've probably seen 45 college games this year. And so when I go to the college games, I watch the college players, obviously, but I'm watching the college umpires myself to hopefully learn. And even like this year, I've had limited amount of games. I'm still getting better. And even after every game, when I'm working with a senior partner, after every game, I say, what do you got for me? What could I have done better? Because most umpires, if they're honest, they're riding back just like a player is, what can I have done better that game, because they're going to have the 50-50 calls. I think there was a 2018 study that 90% of the calls by home umpires in MLB, missed a strike or ball calls. They still, miss some calls, and that's just part of the human element of umpiring and officiating in general. And it's tough for people to watch, but that's just the human element.
Myles, what have you learned from umpiring, and how much more of an appreciation do you maybe have from doing it?
I think what I've learned mostly is having a short-term memory. You can't like if you make a bad call in the first inning, you can't have that in your head and carry that out throughout the rest of the game, or you're just gonna make more bad calls. So that's kind of what I've learned about it, and I've definitely appreciated umpires in general a lot more. During games, they get a lot of hate, not hate, but a lot of heckling from fans and coaches, and sometimes you just got to feel bad for them.
Is it out of control?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit out of control, but I understand a little bit of it on like a clear missed call, but the constant heckling from like pitch to pitch is kind of out of control in my opinion.
Do you prefer being behind the plate or in the field?
I like being behind the plate, and I feel more control of the game if I'm behind the plate than if I'm in the field. So.
Does it help you when you're like pitching then? Like if you're pitching and you also are an umpire, so you kind of understand maybe what the guy behind the plate is going through and considerations and what maybe he's looking for.
Yeah.
So when you're pitching, kind of maybe how to attack things.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things umpires strive for is consistency. So I know that if you're umpiring behind the plate, you want to be consistent. So if they're consistently calling the outside corner, I'm gonna pitch the outside corner because they're gonna try to be consistent with that call. So
yeah, I agree with that. So what for us, if someone's like in the zone all the time, it's much easier for the call. If you're all over the place, I think it's much tougher, for us to call that. And it's what we call the 50-50 calls too. So if you're hitting that outside spot, it's a 50-50 call. It might be 50% strike, 50% balls. You may get that. You may get that call if it's a 0-0 count. Sometimes people complain if it's a 0-2 and you don't get that 50-50 call. And the biggest thing is, if you're a pitcher, just try to keep your emotions in check on the mound. Crybabies are a little bit tough, when you're behind the plate. And what I like what Myles says though is that, is having a short-term memory. As we were telling some of the younger umpires, is that. No makeup calls,
Yeah.
Umpire knows if he blew that one or if that could have been a 50-50 call, but I've noticed too, if you guys noticed like a lot of heckling lately from the
a lot more than I've seen
this year,
for sure.
I haven't noticed that much the last couple of years.
You are well trained.
I just haven't noticed it, and I think a lot of it is now in travel ball. It's a lot different because people pay $400, $500, $600, $800. So parents are all ape
Good point.
crazy, ape crazy. It's a family show, but ape crazy, and but in high school, I don't know if the ADs or people are really good, but I hear a little bit of chatter. Usually it's the pitcher's family or whatever giving it to me a little bit. But
Yeah, well, in the travel ball, it's because a lot of parents, not all, I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush. It's that Derek Jeter syndrome where they think their kid's the next Derek Jeter.
Well, and I can tell you that probably 80% of high school baseball players are not recruited because of what they do in high school. It's because
Yeah.
of the competition they play in the summer.
It's true.
Because the competition is more consistent. It's at a higher level consistently. And when you see high school baseball players, one game they might see a good pitcher,
Very
then the
true.
next three they might not see a very good pitcher. So it's hard to get a good feel recruiting a high school athlete based on what their batting average may be.
Yeah.
Because of this guy hasn't seen any pitching. But you watch him play in the summer leagues, the travel leagues, where, like you're saying, the competition's consistently better. That's where you're going to see
And
kids.
I
I can see the parents at that
Yeah.
point, being, an issue.
And I mean, in the summer, and you face guys from all over the state and sometimes all over the country too. I mean, we have a tournament coming up this summer that I think might be in Ohio. So we're facing arms from Ohio that you won't see in high school ball. So
Yeah, so if anyone is interested in becoming an official, an umpire, etc., the MHSA is always looking for them. You can go to mhsa.com/I-am/officials. And there's all kinds of info here. There's links, officials registration, official services, new officials, just all this kind of stuff where you can get involved. So be a part of the solution and not part of the
Well,
complaints.
and I remember, and not with baseball, but with officials from basketball and football. I've talked with a couple, and I've sat down, and I said, what I would like to see happen, okay, is I would love to see, and some colleges do have it, okay, but let's take Muskegon Community College, okay. What I would offer is a umpiring class, first semester, second, and after you take that class the first semester, you can go out and do youth league, okay? If you take the second semester class, which is a level up, okay, now you can do middle school. Then the third semester you're there, which is now your sophomore year, you take the third level, which will let you do JV football games. And then your last semester of junior college, you take that fourth level of umpiring class or refereeing class.
yeah, like that.
So you get those certifications, but you're getting college credit for learning how to do that. Plus, you can go out and you're able to work a little bit. Okay, but the thing is here, these kids are going to school. They're going to be looking, like you said, for a way to make money. So let's have different umpiring, refereeing classes that takes them to the entry, and then by the time they take the 4 levels, they're able to do high school, JV games. So that I would love to see where, not only are you learning something, okay, but you're able, like I said, to get kids interested. I'm getting a credit now. How would you like to get a high school credit for what you're doing right now with umpiring?
Yeah, I mean that'd be sweet. And that's
It would
actually
be sweet. And there's some high schools in the state that do that.
That's something I was talking about with our principal,
You
Mr.
know.
Ruston, that we might have a class next year as like an elective.
Oh, that'd be nice.
It would be.
Yeah.
There's your teacher.
Well, yeah. So yeah, I mean
It'd be fun.
that would be sweet.
But you've got to find a way to get the kids interested, okay? And love of the sport may not be enough, okay? But when you sit there and say, now I can get credit, that's one thing. I can get paid as a part-time job, that's another
And
thing.
get the skills, though. Really, it's about being trained to do it.
Exactly.
And feeling confident. I think basketball is the toughest one, to be honest with you. I think God bless the basketball referees and being right by the spectators and the pounding that it takes on the knees and stuff for those folks to run up and down. One thing though, I am going to make mention before we sign off. I'm not sure where we're in. I think there's a 3-hour show, right?
Yeah.
Is what drives me nuts. That little box that everyone sees,
Oh, yeah, the MLB, you mean?
MLB box. I think we talked about it. Mm-hmm. That's 2D. That's 2-dimensional. The strike zone is 3-dimensional. So you guys, when everyone's watching and then whoever's listening in, and you see it, and everyone loves to get on Angel Hernandez,
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean he's got his issues, But remember, anytime that ball touches any part or it goes any part of that 3D strike zone, that's a strike. So that when you see that box, that's 2D. We don't know where that box is. Is it the front of the zone? Is it the middle of the zone? Is it the end of the zone? So I've gotten in plenty of X discussions on all the X umpires that are or Twitter umpires out there.
I got to ask this: when when you're working with younger kids, let's just say 10, 11-year-old kids, do you find yourself, especially for you, do you find yourself saying, these kids don't have the skill set yet? Do you maybe make that strike zone a little bit larger because of the kids? Do you think about that, or nope, this is what it is, and this is what we're going with? But some of those kids couldn't throw a strike, right down the middle, 10% of the time.
Yeah, and this is actually like a few of my other buddies umpire with me, and they actually call me out on this because I kind of have a smaller strike zone compared to them because they kind of want to just get in there and get out of there. So they kind of get after me for having a smaller strike zone because I'm keeping them there longer if they're in the field. So, yeah, I have a smaller strike zone. If they're 10 and 11, I might open it up a little bit. But
So have you ever seen the movie Naked Gun? Have you seen it?
It's been a while.
The old the late Leslie Nielsen,
Yeah.
where he's behind the plate, and all of a sudden, pitch comes in, he just sits there, doesn't make a call, and he goes, strike? Like he's questioning himself, and the crowd goes, and then by the third strike, he's calling the strike when the ball is just out of the pitcher's hands, not even to the plate. Strike 3, and he's doing the moonwalk and all that stuff. That's what you need to kind of incorporate.
okay,
I think that's what your buddies want.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I tend to have a bigger zone for the younger guys. You'll notice people have different zones, but I go chalk to chalk. For the younger guys. When you have a bigger zone, you get people swinging a bat. And
Right.
And the game goes by quicker. So it's just different mindset, and Myles likes to be consistent, and God bless him. The JV game a little bit bigger zone than maybe the varsity game. It's not just, it's part of it. It's part of the idea of not so much people can't throw a strike, but, as if you look in the major leagues, it's definitely a smaller zone compared to, than obviously the high school or even the college game is definitely a smaller zone than the high school. So every time you go up a little bit higher, the zones get so much smaller, but I tell you what, even the umpiring I've seen in the college game, it does change, but they are held to a higher level. But I've seen a couple where they threw the ball right down the middle, like you've seen the MLB, and they don't call a strike. It's just like, wow, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen. You're hoping you're on the other side, And the phrase for that is for the pitchers, they'll say, "Man, the umpire squeezed me." He's squeezing me. And I've heard my son say it. He said that guy was really squeezing me. So,
I wanted to change topics real quick, just because I know Myles would appreciate this. The NFL draft just took place. I know Myles does his own podcast on NFL stuff. So, what'd you think? Detroit showed out, didn't they? They showed up.
Oh yeah,
They
I
set a
think
record
750,000. That's
Yeah.
for
insane.
attendance. What'd you think of the Lions Hall?
They beefed up the secondary. Terry and Arnold from Bama, and then the Ennis dude from Missouri. Those two great pickups. But I'm still wondering about the Michael Penix pick from Atlanta.
Yeah.
That puzzled me.
I think he looked shocked. Did you see the look on his face when he got called?
Penix,
Yeah.
and then Cousins was a little bit.
Yeah, I
Wait a
think-
minute, what's going on?
They
here?
didn't even let him know that they were even
I
considering.
think Penix was ready to go to the restroom, and then he looked. Oh my gosh, my name was called.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mike?
Honestly, I didn't watch a lot of it. I'd rather read about it
Yeah,
because it's too drawn out for me.
it is.
I'd
It's
rather
a
read about it.
marathon. Who are the winners and losers, Myles?
I think the Vikings picked up a good haul. Dallas Turner, in the middle of the first round was, I think, a steal. I think he was top 10 talent. And then they got their QB of the future, JJ McCarthy. I think he's kind of like a Brock Purdy. He's not gonna throw the lights out. He's not gonna throw for 400 yards a game, but he'll win you ball games. So I think that's big for the Vikings.
We got Tim Miller on here on the chat, I believe. Pittsburgh City of Champions said, hi, guys. And then he says, I'm happy with my Steelers draft picks. And then the Big Cat, 0226, says, what's up? So,
What's up, Big Cat?
So we have some people saying hello to us, but
Now, I know the big cat is Ernie Ladd.
yeah.
That's who the big cat is to me. How about Blake Corum? How do you think he'll do in the pros?
Yeah, he went to the Rams, so his him and Kyron Williams are going to be kind of a two-headed beast at the Rams. So but I think he's undersized, obviously, but he's strong.
Well,
He's strong.
I'm just worried that his career in the professionals might be a lot like Mike Hart's.
Yeah.
That's Jamie Morris a long time ago there, same kind of thing.
Some kind of build.
You got to watch and see how they progress, how they handle injuries.
Yeah.
Things like. But Mike Hart didn't have the career everybody thought he was going to have either.
Yeah.
But then you look at a guy like Jared Bunch that came out of there and played. Man, that dude in Wheatley, those guys had solid careers. How did Ohio State do?
Yeah, they 4. I think they got 4 picks.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they got 4.
I remember.
How did Michigan State do, Myles?
They had one guy, 7th round, Jacob Slade. Or no, it was
No.
Nick Samick, the center.
Yeah, Nick Samick, and then
Where'd
they
he
had
go?
Obviously he wasn't with MSU anymore, but he started his
Keon
career there. Keon Coleman.
But we've got what's the linebacker's name? Number 27. He's coming up here.
Oh yeah,
Cal Holiday.
Yeah. He's
he's
coming
a
up
throwback.
here. That guy, he's good.
He's a player.
He's
Yeah,
good.
hell
I mean,
yeah.
I'd want him on my team.
Yeah.
He's a player.
Yep.
So another thing we have, it's a big week for county tournaments. It's Greater Muskegon Athletic Association. It's boys golf on Wednesday. I believe that's at Oak Ridge. Track and field on Friday, I believe at Whitehall.
What's that Monaco, I believe?
It's at Montague, my bad. I said Whitehall. I
Be
meant
careful.
Montague. I
Be
know.
careful with those mess ups.
I know.
You're going to get in trouble.
At Montague, I'm glad you caught me.
I was
on
going to
that.
say. I'm going to it. That's why I'll be there.
Baseball, well, even if you're
Is there a ball game at Monaco on Friday, just in case? No, I'm just joking.
there might be actually there might be a county tournament.
Oh, I may have to go over in between events.
Because there's baseball starts on Friday,
Yeah.
county tournament, and then it continues on Saturday. Softball on Saturday, girls tennis on Saturday. I've been covering some softball, some baseball as well, trying to get to some track this week. But the interesting thing, Reese Puffer softball is undefeated still at 18-0-1. They played at Oak Ridge on Thursday, and Oak Ridge had a 4-1 lead. Reese Puffer scores 5 to take the lead and wins at 6-5. The second game was crazy, though. It was 13-4 Oak Ridge. They had the winning run to finish the Mercy Rule on third with 1 out. Didn't score it. In the 6th inning, Puffer scores 5. 7th inning, Puffer scores 5 and wins 14-13.
Wow.
So Puffer's the number 1 seed. Urbana's a 2 seed. Oak Ridge is a 3 seed. They're all in the same tier 1. Should be some good softball.
That's insane.
Yeah, Oak Ridge doesn't lose much.
And North Muskegon's the 1 seed in baseball. Whitehall,
6.
you guys are 6. I think you guys are going to Shores for your first game, maybe.
We're an underdog, I think. I think we could upset some teams.
Yeah. Yeah, played out. North
Myles
Muskegon
is gonna do it.
beat Shores in the opener at Shores. So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I umped that game last year where North Muskegon beat Shores for the championship over at Marsh. They always North Muskegon's always tough in baseball. They've always got some players. And
yeah, they're on quite a run right now. So the Big Cat,
They must have good youth programs over there.
they do.
yeah, the
They're
big
solid.
The Big Cat says I think he should do decent. I think he's referring to
Blake Corum.
Blake Corum. And then he asked, "What do you guys feel about Cam Sutton?"
Cam Sutton. He turned himself in a few weeks ago.
I think so.
Who he's going to sign with? I'm sure he's going to be picked up by somebody.
I doubt it.
Why not? Sure,
Might get
he'll
locked
pick him
up.
He got picked up all right
Did he get picked up by who?
Oh, he did?
by the police.
No, I'm just he's going to picked up by somebody.
No, he was. In fairness to him with the Lions this year, I don't. He was never intended to be a number 1
No,
cornerback,
no,
and that's what he was playing.
yeah.
So if you look at that, he didn't do too poorly, although he was picked on a little bit. But he wasn't meant to be in that spot, I don't think.
No.
But
Yeah, it's interesting what they came out with. I mean, supposedly the Lions told him they had the arrest warrant, but then he didn't turn himself in right away, and I think that's what led to him being
He was like missing for like
Released.
2 weeks. Nobody knew where he was.
down in Florida somewhere.
Well, and I look back to, kind of follow the college thing a little bit. The kid that was coaching in the NFL, played quarterback at Michigan, gets pulled over for driving while intoxicated 2 weeks ago.
oh, Denard Robinson.
Yeah, Robinson.
Yeah.
Tell me what's going through that guy's mind. I mean, they just fired the defensive line coach.
I know.
You know what I mean? Because of that. Mm-hmm. And this is how you're going to come back to your hometown,
Yeah.
and you're going, and again, have you heard anything about it? Have you heard anything about it?
No.
No, but you heard about that defensive line coach. Boom, he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they unplugged it right then, out. Okay, Denard Robinson, you haven't heard a thing about.
Yeah.
I did hear about it like when it happened, but it died down though after
Real
a couple
quick.
of days though.
Real quick, okay? And is that because he played there? You know, are they going to say, you know, and again, was it something, are they going to come out and say, well, it was something medical? You know, he had a situation, you know, at 4 o'clock in the
He
morning.
was loved. I mean, you're right. He was loved. They loved him.
Absolutely. So my question, though, is, are they protecting him?
Yeah.
Are they protecting him,
That can
his
happen.
name and his image, you know, as opposed to that defensive line coach that did not play at Michigan,
right.
was not from Ann Arbor.
Right.
And so what do we do here?
I think that happens.
You know,
Mike, you have the question behind the question. You go a little bit deeper.
I just want to hear opinions.
He always does.
Just want to hear an opinion.
So Noah Morse, you know Noah Morse?
I
He
do
says,
know
"What's up, Myles? It's Noah Morse."
What's up, Noah? Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Hey,
No, so Noah's the one listening.
that's
Yeah.
right. He's the one concurrent viewer right now.
Hey, Miles, what's your dad think about the Bears? The Bears really had a haul there.
Oh yeah, I mean, two top 10 picks. It's kind of hard to screw that up. I mean, only time will tell though. Really, Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze. I mean, Odunze's a big dude though. He's pretty physical.
They didn't do much on defense, though, man. That's the problem. Defense is going to be an issue for them.
It will be, but you can only work on so many positions at a time though. So I
Run and
think
gun.
focusing on one specific part is the first step in my opinion. So
So Noah says, "What do you guys think about the Falcons drafting Penix?" I mean, I thought he's the best quarterback in the draft. That's my opinion.
think so.
I thought he was.
I don't. I think if you watched in the bowl game, you know, if you watch his feet, his mechanics were so far off in that game.
Yeah.
You know, where, you know, he's throwing down the field, but he's stepping this way. You know, he's supposed to be throwing
Yeah.
at 12 o'clock, and he's stepping at 9 o'clock.
Then who was the best then?
You know, well, you know, I
Don't
don't.
tell me J.J. McCarthy.
No, I'm not saying, but well, again, a lot of these guys, it's a matter of like Mahomes.
Yeah.
You know, can you improvise, throw on the run
That
and
are you
all that?
surrounded by the right things?
You know, but when you're not pressured, okay, when you're standing in the pocket and you've got time to go through progressions and you look and you say, okay, now let's watch his feet, let's watch his follow through, his mechanics. I thought in the playoffs this year, I thought he had the worst technique that I saw.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. I mean, you saw him against that, you know, in the Natty game, and when he actually had like an NFL type defense with the DC that's a, you know, NFL DC.
Right.
I mean, he looked confused, and he was when he came off that game, he had like ice pack
Absolutely.
on his rib cage. I mean, 13 points and 13
Speaking
possessions.
of officiating, there were a couple calls that changed the course of that game, I thought, too.
With the one holding?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
There
I
was
mean,
a couple of them that it was a ball game that happened and then game
well,
over.
if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, Christmas would be year round.
All right.
I mean, so, but the point being though is he didn't look like himself. And then someone said, "Wow, that was a poor time to have the worst game of his career." Well, the defense could have been something to do with it.
Well-
I'm just saying from that aspect, 13 points and 13 possessions.
And the first thing, you know, you see that, and the first thing as a coordinator you're looking at, okay, he's not having, and you know, your quarterback coach is going, he doesn't have time, you know, he does not have time to set up. That's why his mechanics are off. Then you know what we need to do? We need to bring in a running back, give him one more person in a protection scheme.
Right.
Okay, bring an extra tight end in. Okay, change the blocking scheme if that's what's going to have to happen. But make sure he's throwing using the proper mechanics that he can throw in. That's what got him, you know, the notoriety, everything. That's
and
why
I
he was
think-
so successful.
And
You know, he's
still
got
think-
the skills, but he just like you said, you know, they came at him with some pressure. Now he's having to improvise
like what's going to happen in the NFL. You know,
Yeah,
because
I think it was a draft for a quarterback heavy you haven't seen in a long, long time. All those quarterbacks was just amazing. Bo Nix was even a great quarterback, and with the Raiders got him. No, the Denver
Broncos.
got him. Denver
I
got
think
him.
he kind of went a little soon though. I feel like he was kind of a late first, but
yeah, no, it's tough. I'm not a believer in the number one pick.
Caleb Williams.
I thought he just more so his sideline antics. Like he just was acting like
Yeah,
a
that's true.
baby. It felt like.
Yeah, you're right, because he had like his head and his, you know, and his legs.
He didn't compete in the combine either.
Yeah.
Well, you know what though, he did not have a good day. I didn't think they had a good scheme for what they were going to see, and I think that'll be taken care of at the next level. Okay, so he just needs to focus on being coached, you know, become coachable and progress, learn.
And I'm also not in an NFL front office to know what the heck I'm talking about. So
I think
I'll preface it with that.
I think he has the most ceiling, though, out of all the quarterbacks, for sure. Most arm talent, in my opinion.
All right. Well, that about does it. Any final thoughts from you guys?
No, I think, what you're doing is very commendable. I love seeing you work with young kids like this. That's great. We need more of it. We need more of it.
No, I think Myles has got a great future ahead of him. I'd like to see him play baseball at the next level. I think he's got the talent to play baseball, and definitely has the talent to be an umpire at the next level. I've seen Myles play baseball when I was umping when he was a young guy, and he can block the plate like the best of them as a catcher.
How important is that to have a catcher that do you talk to the catchers a lot?
I'm starting to a little bit more and more.
Do you?
When I was a catcher as a younger fella, and not to go on and on, but I used to talk to the batters all the time. Because we would always say, "Hey, curveball coming or fastball coming."
Did the umpire tell you can't do that?
No. We back in the '80s, we loved doing stuff like that, especially in the summer leagues.
He'd say to Myles, "Would you block the damn ball? Keep on getting hit back here."
That's the tough part too, is getting hitting stuff like that. And sometimes us umpires will flinch and we're not supposed to, but when you get hit a couple times,
Doesn't feel good.
I don't care how much they pay you.
Yeah,
So,
That is so good.
but no, I appreciate coming on and chatting.
Yeah, thanks
and
for coming on,
I
Ron.
enjoy it, and it's a lot of fun. And I guess one last thing, just pray for warm weather.
Absolutely.
When is your final regular season game? It's about the middle of May,
Yeah.
or is it
something like
over by
that.
then?
Middle toward the end of May.
Yeah, because I think districts is end
End
of
of
May.
June.
So the
End of May.
districts are June 1st, I believe, on that Saturday, and there's pre-districts usually like on that Tuesday of before that. So right after Memorial Day. So
Wow, who's best team you played against this year?
Coopersville. Even though, I think Coopersville for sure. Even though Spring Lake beat Coopersville and we beat Spring Lake, I think Coopersville was more well-rounded team that we've played so far.
yep.
Wow. I don't know if you've seen it, if you can get a chance to look at it, but down in Kalamazoo, they did open up that Kalamazoo Central Derek Jeter
Yeah,
field.
I saw a picture of it.
And, that is an unbelievable facility now. And I wonder, again, in the city there, those two programs, Loy Norix and Kalamazoo Central, they're not the strongest baseball teams, on the planet. But you wonder what a facility like that does for the youth kids, and the kids that come up into high school wanting to play on that field. So that'll be interesting.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. One more thank you to our sponsors, Big Stone Therapies, Rescue 2.0 LLC, Grieve Law, Edward Jones, and financial advisor Brett Adkins, Coldwell Banker Woodland Schmidt with David Dusenberry, Farm Bureau Insurance, the Kenny Agency, 5-Star Real Estate Leaders with Matt Parker, The Birdhouse, Shad Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, Greenridge Realty with Chris Dykman and Sarah Reel, and then title sponsor Chris Wank.
Chris Wink.
That's right, Realtor with Century 21 Trophy Class. If you need to get a hold of him, his number, and he gives us how he wants people to know it, 231-327-4697. His email is chris@trophyclassrealestate.com. And you can go to their website at Chris Wenk. It's CHRISWENK, realestate.com.
And make sure you put in there, text him, email him, and tell him you are in favor of him doing a podcast on real estate.
Absolutely. So thanks a lot, guys, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday night, what's left of it.